Hello, welcome to another Talk Time edition. This week we're going to be talking about boosting motivation and achieving goals. A lot of clients come in for this, so I hope you enjoy it. I'm going to have Teresa Saunders joining me. So this is the final for the emotional series. If you haven't caught up on the other ones, please check them out, and hope you enjoy today.
Hi Meredith. Hi everybody. Been emotional. It's the final one on the emotional series.
Yeah. When we're kind of looking at that idea of boosting motivation and achieving goals, my thought on that is a lot of people do get scared about failing. And I think the subconscious then rallies and tries to protect a person from that failure. So many times when we're thinking about going and achieving a goal, often it's a goal that you've never done before, right?
It's true. Yep. So we get that fear, don't we? Or we start to procrastinate.
And this is where the way our mindset works is crucial. So if we're imagining distress, we're going to talk ourselves out of it and we're going to procrastinate. So if we want to motivate our brain and body into taking action, we must place into our mind the exciting idea of what's going to happen when we take action. What's in it for me? It's like the strong emotion wins. As hypnotherapists, what are you thinking as a hypnotherapy approach that you would deal with a client maybe that comes in wanting to maybe get their driver's license and they're really sort of worried about that, and maybe they're in a situation where they're avoiding even getting in the car. So what might your approach be if someone came to you like that, Teresa?
I think really, first of all, I'd have a look at, their reasons for getting that driver's license. Did they actually really want to get the driver's license, or is somebody else, like their parents, pushing them to get that driver's license? Because sometimes we can find that lack of motivation is because it's something that we don't necessarily want for ourselves, but we feel that we need to do it because it's being forced upon us to say something. So I'd be looking at that reasonings, but I wouldn't be ruling necessarily that out. I'd be also asking if they do go for their driver's license, what benefits, what gains would they actually personally achieve by going and getting their driver's license? That would be my starting points.
Yeah, because brilliant, secondary gain of avoidance. We need to look at what's going on here. If I don't get my independence, and I might stop feeling like I'm being supported, my parents aren't going to drop me off and pick me up anymore, and little things like that. It could be as small as that, where that's the one love language they get from their parents is knowing that they'll still rally and pick you up and drop you off and do things. And maybe that's that one-on-one connection time, that communication time you might have with your parents while you're in the car driving from A to B. And outside of that, it might be a bit sparse. So definitely there can be that to look at. And also, why might they be pushed into getting the license? And is that really their idea of happiness, or is it someone else's?
That's right. I mean, you can always flip it round. It might not be theirs, and that might be that only time that they feel that they get that time, that one-on-one time with the person that drives them to sports or whatever event. But then you could perhaps suggest to them, well, okay, they might not be driving you, so you'd have that independence, but you could make a date in your diary to go and have coffee with them, or to go, take them to watch you play a game or something like that. So there's always something you can tease out of a conversation and try and get them to flip that negative into a positive.
So when we're dealing with clients, we're asking a lot of open-ended questions. We're trying to work out what is going on really in this scenario, rather than jump to conclusions that it's just a lack of motivation. Like, why is that? What is really going on here? I think that's an important part to assist any client to achieving whatever it is that they actually want. The other thing is to, I guess, building up the what's in it for me, that it wins. So, if we're thinking about positive visualization or imagining the future as, a success, what does that really look like? So we're asking often clients about what that would be for them.
That's right. And like you're saying, don't assume what it's going to be like, because our idea of getting a driver's license, like for me, I lived really rural, so I had to walk everywhere, and a lot of places were out of walking distance. So it was a real benefit for me to actually gain my driver's license. But somebody else might actually like being remotely at home and not having to go out and socialize with other people. So I do think that that's something we need to be mindful about, that we're actually looking at what the client wants to achieve and their personal positive gains.
Absolutely. I think another part, when we're looking at hypno coaching, let's say you're coaching a person through something and there's a series of steps between where they are and where they want to be. I think it's important to chunk it down and support that client in the plan, because often the how is missing. Like they want that, but they don't know how to get to where they want to be. So this is where the brainstorming space is really important, I think, as part of a clinical session. What are your thoughts on that, Teresa?
Definitely. I think, again, there's a lot of this thing that everything's done under hypnosis when you come to a hypnotherapy session, and people don't really understand, or it's not clear to them that a lot of the work is actually done outside of, the trance state as such. I won't say outside of the hypnosis, because you can go into hypnosis in very many forms, as one would know if you've studied hypnotherapy. But outside that clinical approach of now, you're going deeper and deeper into trance. And there's a lot of value of actually unpacking and exploring what benefits would actually have to gaining that driver's license in this instance.
Yeah. So when we're looking at a personal goal, let's say the subject of somewhere, someone's wanting to achieve a new business goal. So they're becoming self-employed, they've never been self-employed, and there's a lot of steps into what they might need to do to establish their business. And that can feel really overwhelming, but also they're obviously want it. Again, the motivation to get up and do those little tasks. I love technology like ChatGPT, for example, to help brainstorm some ideas and a checklist of things that a person might want to go through. But that doesn't mean that they're ready to do it, right? Just because
That's
someone
right.
has the best idea in all the world does not mean that they're going to push green for go. So when we think about, okay, we can see the map of how that could be accomplished. A crucial question I might ask is, what belief stands in the way between where you are now and where you want to be? This is important to ask that kind of thing, because if you don't ask that question, then that belief stays hidden and you don't deal with it. What are your ways of maybe exploring someone's limiting beliefs in that scenario that might help, if they were to dissolve it, move forward and take action then?
Similar way, I would ask them questions. Okay, so they've been thinking about this, starting up a business for a wee while. So why have you not taken that next step? What's prevented you from doing that? It could be like this confidence. They lack confidence of perhaps going out and asking other people, because that's another way that you can get some ideas of how to set up something and get your motivation, is speaking with others that have done that in the past, that perhaps you aspire to. Or we don't know everything, so you might want to sort of find out, how was the best way you set up your business? What did you do? What pitfalls did you have? And that sort of thing. And it can feel very overwhelming. So it's unpacking the reasons why they prevent that forwards, and trying to look at those beliefs, and then flipping those beliefs, and okay, if you continue to on this belief, it's not going to actually happen, is it? If we change that, though, in the past, that's what happened, but that doesn't mean that's how it's going to be in the future. So, okay, your last business didn't take off. Maybe it was the wrong time. Maybe it wasn't the right business. Maybe you did something that unfortunately prevented it from moving forward. You weren't sort of marketing the right areas or something, but you learnt your lesson from that. So how can we move forward? What can we do in a different way? Is there another approach that we can take?
I love the saying, there are no mistakes, just learnings. They're not the exact words from the NLP, but they're pretty much what NLP sort of is talking about, and exploring a person's learnings rather than seeing them as faulty or wrong. That's really empowering for the client to go and see how much they've grown from an experience, regardless of the outcome. To reframe it in a resourceful way.
But even the most successful people, you look at Richard Branson, for example, I believe he set up businesses prior to his multi-enterprise that failed, so, it's I won't say a natural human thing, but sometimes we do come across roadblocks, like you say, and then they're learnings. And it's about the importance of what we take away from that learning and move forwards from that.
Yeah. Now, talking about also beyond the session, it's what that person is saying in their own mind as they walk away out of that door. And I think a lot of times in a therapeutic space, we have opportunities as therapists to talk to a person about their own inner chatter and how powerful it is and how essential it is to get the right messages flowing, because words have power. Words become things. We create a story of belief in our mind, and that story will dictate our action or reaction to something. So if we want to boost that motivation and feel like we can take that step, on the inside, we also need to have our own inner cheerleader going on. We need to go, yeah, I can do this. It's going to be easy. It's going to be amazing. So that hypnotic position and those words that you want to build need to be echoed in the client's mind as well. So well beyond the session, there is really good opportunity to utilize certain power words that we can implant. So one comes to mind is that it is simply the word yes. And it's the way you say yes. It's an excited yes. And it could be, yes, I'm ready, or yes, go. It could be just that simple, but we're priming it. So in a hypnotic journey, we can definitely get a client to imagine dress rehearsing their own inner mind, reinforcing those key power words that then switches them into action. What are your thoughts on that one, Teresa?
Oh, definitely. You've got to think it, feel it, hear it, see it, build it big, make it a big picture, bright and bold and happy, your future going forwards. You've really got to imagine it and create it. Because if you think about when you wake up, I think we had this conversation before, you wake up in the morning and everything starts going wrong. You've got dressed, you clean your teeth, the toothpaste drops on your top, you've got to then go and change it, go and get yourself a coffee, you drop your coffee or bump into somebody and coffee goes everywhere. Now you can sort of sit there and say to yourself, oh, damn, I knew it was going to be one of those days. It's not one thing after another type of thing. Or you can change it and say, okay, that's happened. Now I'm going to have a good day. That's my 3 things in a row, or that's gone past. I'm now going to change. I'm going to have a good day. And your mindset will actually affect the way that your day actually proceeds going forwards from that. I truly believe.
Absolutely. Connecting to the circle of excellence that I talked about last session, that's also a mind changer opportunity where you can imagine that circle of excellence and step into it as a game changer. So, if that's boosting your motivation to then go and do whatever it is that you need to go and get done, that is a good tool in your toolkit. So if you haven't actually watched that, go back to the last one. I think it was the last one, wasn't it?
I didn't do the last one with you, but I believe it was the circle of excellence that you spoke in the last one. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, if you're not sure what we're talking about, go back to that. But when we're working with clients, there are many ways to help boost motivation, but you've got to be really aware of how that client is outside of your session. You can hold space and be buoyant and bubbly and cheerlead them, but it's what happens outside of your clinic that really counts. So what is the atmosphere at home? Do they have people who are cheerleading them too? Have they got external witnesses that celebrate them in some way? Or are they going home to the negative Nancy's, where their friends, family doubts their ability to do whatever it is. And they may even make fun of them and wonder or think they're stupid or something wrong with them. You've got to instill this empowerment element within the client so the client's heart knows what feels right. And I think that's a big part of fortifying that motivation and fortifying that journey. Like there's a part of that person, the inner compass, I like to call it, that knows who they are, what they've been through, and where they're meant to be going. Their heart knows it. So other people outside their environment have no idea what this person's journey is meant to be.
Sorry.
Yeah, you go.
I was going to say, I think we often allow the outside environment to influence us so much. And although we feel that we have that knowledge to build a career or a business or go do something, a sport, if we hear enough from outside people saying, no, you're not good enough at that, or, you'll never do that, then we allow that to actually start to take effect and change our feelings. So it's important to build up and keep that inner dialogue ourselves. Yes, I can do this. I am good. I do know what I'm doing. I can succeed. And anchors are another good one that I would use in a session to actually elicit that emotion of I can do this, I am good, I will succeed, and build up, put in the anchor there for that emotion. And it could be using a piece of music, or if they drive a lot or something, they could, every time they put their hands on the steering wheel, that's the anchor, or something. Use something positive to help build their motivation. Like we were saying before, the strongest emotion wins. So we want something that's going to really get your client motivated to succeed.
Definitely. Talking about anchors, we've got a few other talk time sessions that we've done covering anchors. So if you're not sure about what that is or how to go about it, definitely look back at some of our past ones and you'll find the anchors in there. So you might find that interesting. If you have any questions too about what anchors are or anything else that we've been talking about, please, pop a comment and we would love to talk to that. When we're looking at the idea of hypnosis, that final finale, bringing it all together, I talk to my students often about getting those golden nuggets from the client and really reinforcing those words back to the client. So what I mean by a golden nugget is a power word that's come from your client that you then relay back to them during the hypnotic journey. So if they're using the word, I want to feel empowered, you use the word and you feel empowered. So when what would be some other words that a client might use?
I want to have confidence. So I know I want to succeed, or I can succeed. I will pass if it's for your driving, an exam or your driving test, those sort of things.
So in a hypnotic journey, you go and you succeed and you'll pass with ease. And, so you're using and eliciting the same matching language back to the client because that came from the client's world of understanding. If we don't have enough matches, if we add our take on it, the client may have a sense that you didn't really hear them or you didn't really understand them. And that's not a good thing. So this is where scripts can be problematic because they're very narrow in their use of vocabulary. It's very generalized. So when we're going beyond scripts and we're using client-centric or client-centered language that matches the client's needs within that journey, that can be amazing for the client.
Definitely, for sure, using their language. I mean, there's no point speaking to somebody that's extremely intellectual and use really long words and stuff like that, and then talking, as if they don't, and using a different type of language skill and vice versa, because you just lose the rapport with people.
Yeah. Actually, talking about that, often we're using a lot of different ways of storytelling with children. So when children come in seeking help, obviously they don't have that huge vocabulary and they don't have this huge knowledge bank yet about how the world works. So quite often telling stories can be extremely useful. I'll bring in actually an example of a client that I've been working with. I've seen this person twice, and I will say it's a he, okay? So I've seen this boy twice. He's 12 years old and he has had problems with wetting the bed, okay? So this is quite common. A lot of people out into adulthood still have issues with wetting the bed. So it's not completely abnormal. This is just sometimes people have this. They can sleep so deeply and so well that they don't wake up and have that sensation. So anyway, this has obviously been disturbing him, and I got a number of emails before he arrived saying how embarrassed he felt and he wasn't sure whether he could talk about it. So not once have we actually talked directly about the bedwetting, but we've talked about how magical his mind is and how the mind works and the amygdala, and how we can show our mind what we want and our mind can turn up and then run that program. And so I've talked about strategies of how the mind works and how he can be his own master hypnotist. So I'm giving him the power back, because at the moment he's been dealing with this powerlessness. Right, he's got this motivation, and he's got this goal of not wetting the bed, and the motivation, it makes him feel embarrassed, and he can't go to sleepovers, and things, normal things that other kids his age enjoy. He's not in that place yet. So anyway, the first session, we didn't mention why he was there other than really empowering him. And you could see the light bulbs going on, and you could see him really drinking up that understanding. But I used things like examples of people who had a goal, and at first they might not have always got there, but because they persisted, they got there in the end. And this is a big part of metaphors, storytelling that strengthens the ego. And so we must implant this in children's minds. Children love stories, and they can make it fit their own, even if it's not to do directly. So it's called, can you remember what it's called?
The what, sorry?
The structure metaphor and what's that?
Deep structured metaphor?
So when we're looking at that, it means it's not always directly related to actually the story, but the client will make it make sense. Okay, so we talked about Jo Lawn and how once she is an amazing Ironman woman. Anyway, she won 3 years running in the Ironman women's division, and then this 1 year, it was really, really rainy, and she got a puncture. And because it was so slippy, she found it really hard. She lost time on changing her tire, and she came second that year. And instead of sort of standing there getting too angry, what she did automatically was think about what she's going to do differently next year. So automatically she's in the winner's mindset. She's not looking at that as a fail. Yeah, it was disappointing on one level, but it's not the end of the world. And I think she came back and won it again the next year. So, very determined human. When we're dealing with examples like that, these are inspirational to children, okay? So not only to children, to big kids like us. So, It doesn't matter how old you are. I think a good story, it sort of sticks in your mind. And stories help to create concepts. And that concept then can be copied and pasted. What are your thoughts on using metaphor, deep structured metaphor, and surface structure for your clients?
Definitely, like you say, you wanting them to have a way that's going to understand and work for them when you're actually having your session with your client. And metaphors are a really good way listening to the story, because the last thing somebody that hasn't got motivation or is lacking self-confidence wants is to feel the power again slipping away from them. So if you use it in a story, you can do that without them actually feeling powerless, and then by the end hopefully feeling that they're empowered by listening to that story, and they'll take away from what they need from that.
Yeah. So what was lovely is the second visit that he came in, there'd been some positive change. It wasn't consistent yet, but there was some positive change. But of course, he hadn't told me what those change was. He just said, no, things are getting better. And I was like, great, we're on track. So ego strengthening, it's not going to be one-hit wonders. I think this is something I want to hammer home. Therapists, please, just because a client and you have done some amazing work does not mean that it's all fixed in one. Sometimes, yes, it's amazing when that happens, but please don't assume that you're saying ta-ra and that's it and they're all good to go. Have a follow-up. See how they actually are. Please do that for the client's sake, because the client may not have quite got exactly to where they want to be and they still need that support, and that's okay, and that's part of your position as a therapist. So when we're kind of looking at that idea of moving forward, I like to get to that point with a client where we can celebrate the success, and then we know we're done. And that might be 3 sessions, that might be 6 sessions. It's not about how quick or long it takes. It's about that human being on their journey and their ability to turn up and make those little shifts and changes. Now, talking about goals like weight loss, and we were talking a bit about that the other day, I think, around long-term versus short-term weight loss. Obviously, for some people, it might take a whole year or more to get to their desired goal. Now, if they're coming home and they've got no external witness to go, well done, or keep them on track, or keep them honest, quite often that's what you stand for. You stand for someone that they're going to check in maybe monthly or every second month to keep things going. Because long-term motivation, it does need an environment of support that's bigger than just the person. So please, if that person's introverted or they don't have a big fanfare around them, and you might be the only person that gets to really witness their celebration, what they've done well, be that person. Don't be so ego focused that you think, oh no, I don't want to over therapize them. They are all right. We've done the work. They should be fine. No, actually, when it comes to things like weight loss or health journeys, sometimes they are a little longer. And I think it's therapeutically sensitive to let the client guide you in how they want to use you.
Definitely.
This is where we get all packages, so one size fits all. What are your, thoughts on packages versus just doing what that client needs?
I have some packages, but they're not packages for so many sessions of hypnotherapy to be able to fix. It would be in other modalities that I do as well. So it would be a holistic approach, body, mind, spirit, or body, mind, soul approach. Because again, I don't like sort of estimating how many sessions it's going to take to work with somebody. They can be good, I think, in some aspects, but who knows how long it's going to take somebody to move through their journey. As you were saying earlier, it could just be 2 or 3 sessions. It could be 6 or 7 months down the line. For whatever reason, they're still coming back to you. I mean, I have a client that comes to me regularly for relaxation. They have a high profile job that's very stressful. And they just like to check in every so many weeks just to have that session, because they know for themselves and their own well-being and health that having that session with me for the deep relaxation is really good for their well-being. I wouldn't turn them away for coming, because to them that works for them. Somebody else, it might be going for a run, but for them, they like to come and have their hypnotherapy session.
Yeah. So at first, people might come in initially because they're wanting the motivation and to achieve a goal, right? But you might find that they turn into one of those clients that actually just need a little bit of a check-in every so often, and that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. And as long as the client is still gaining value from that session. Like I had one the other day and he goes, "Oh, I'm so pleased I came in today. Feels so much better just to release that," because he's got no one else to release it to. So, for that person to carry the burden of whatever was going on for him and to be able to go blah, unedited, and then to do a hypnotic sort of strengthening and ego boosting session, that was really powerful for him. Now, when we're kind of looking at, I guess, the motivation and achieving goals, are there any questions you have for me maybe about how I work with clients that we haven't already covered? Can you think of anything might be useful to unpack?
If somebody was come to you for motivation, okay, and they knew that they wanted to start up a business. We use that one. Let's go start up a business again. And they've always dreamt of starting up a business, but they haven't done much homework in what it actually entails and how to start up that business and that. And when you ask them, so what steps do you think it would be good to take, or how are you going to move forward from here? And they just come to this complete wall. Well, I don't really know. That's why I haven't gone any further, So they just procrastinate and have this whole story again, over and over again in their head, that they don't know what to do, but they're going to start up a business and go around in circles. How would you actually approach working with somebody like that?
We can ask them a simple question. What if you did know? What would that be like? So we can bypass that kind of automatic, I don't know, and see whether we can sort of wake up something there. We can also future pace them into their ideal situation and get them to go above their timeline and see all the steps that they put in place to get there. That can be a hypnotic journey that you can take people on. You can also see whether there's anyone that they could get in contact with in the desired field of interest to connect and brainstorm with, because chances are someone out there would be happy to mentor them and give them a quick step approach to getting launched into their career if they've been experts in that career and they know how to get there. There's no point in someone learning the hard way where someone else can sort of say, hey, how about you do this and this and avoid this, and and that will help a lot. So getting the client to get that external support somehow, whether it's reading a book or doing a course. I often get clients thinking that they have to go back and do a full degree to change their career tack. And so that can be, one, time-wise, huge commitment, and also financially a huge commitment. And my question and my challenge often to those people who think they need to get all of this business degree and that to launch their own business, I know that that's not how most successful business people got into business. They didn't get a degree first. And quite often you assume that degree is going to give you that knowledge, but that is a hope. It's not necessarily a guarantee that that knowledge is going to actually give you real-time evidence of running a business. A lot of it's theoretical, and I think when you go and do something, you learn quicker. So if we think about going to people who have already done that journey, who have worn the t-shirt and pick their brains, you're going to get way more value and get right to the point, rather than signing up sometimes to a long journey in doing a degree in business studies or whatever else it might be. Not to say that's not great for some people, sure, but if you're going to be self-employed, there are quicker ways to get into that than doing a full business degree. I don't know what your thoughts are on that, but that's where I stand, and I would challenge some of my clients who are procrastinating potentially and wanting to have more and more and more degrees to get to wherever they need to get to.
Yeah, I think sometimes people think that they over-educate themselves, and like you say, it's all right having that knowledge, but you also need to be able to take that step and have that confidence in yourself to actually carry out what you've learnt. And that's where often a lot of people need that motivation. Look, you've done this course, you do know that stuff, you have learnt it. It is safe to take that next step and make your practice work. You know, if you're not, what are you unsure about? Okay, well, let's find somebody that knows that's done that path and see how they actually moved forward on that. Does that sound like a good idea to you? And you know, sort of work on it that way, because I do think often lacking motivation can mean that people feel that they're not qualified enough, but that's not always the case. It's just they're too scared to take that step forward.
Yes. So being a bit of a detective when we're working with clients, what's really going on here? Are they putting in procrastination strategies or action strategies? What's going on? Is that actually a real tangible proper step, or is that just buying some time before they eventually have to do it anyway? So find that out, because that can be really brilliant. Oh, I want to share something that happened the other day. I had this guy, and he had chronic headaches, migraines, and he wasn't able to work anymore. So he left his job because he wasn't functioning, and he thought, I'm probably going to have to take at least 6 months before I can even contemplate getting back into work, and I'll let my body heal and so on. So the first session we had, I actually challenged him on that, and I said, why the 6 months thing? You've said that a couple of times. Where did you come up with it's going to take 6 months to heal? He goes, I don't know. I just thought maybe that would be a good amount of time, so I wouldn't be under pressure. I'm like, okay, what if it could just happen like that? Well, the next session, his migraines started to calm down, and the thing started to resolve. Third session, he cancelled, and he goes, I don't think I need it. The migraines have stopped. And then he goes, oh no, actually, can I still come? And I said, sure. And he came in and he said, I want to work on what I do now, because I've got this 5-month period where I thought I wasn't going to work. And now I'm ready to go to work. Do I start, going to interviews? What do I do? And I'm like, well, what do you want to do? Do you want to work for someone else, or do you want to work for yourself? Like, have you got your ultimate self plan? Like, what would that be? And he goes, I wouldn't mind working for myself. And I'm like, right. Now, he was a coach and has studied NLP, and I kind of, he had some really good assets, and he'd worked with leaders, and he has this really nice want to help people who can't always afford it. So I said, have you ever thought about challenging yourself about this, how many hours a week you need to actually be working? Because I said, well, what does your ultimate self do? I work at least 30 hours a week. And I'm like, oh, here we go again into this funnel. So I thought, no, we need to change and channel, just see whether we can shake the tree a little and see what comes out of it. So I said, what if it wasn't 30 hours that you needed? Because you were assuming it's hour for hour a return. What if you could create passive income streams? And he goes, yeah. I said, well, you're in the perfect role for that. As a coach, a mind coach, you have lots of information that people want to know. So what if you could create online courses? What if you could create that? And he goes, yeah. And you could see his mind starting to whir on this, and it was really exciting. And by the time we came to the end of the session, I said, so if we come back to what brought you in today, do you feel like we've addressed that? And he goes, more than addressed it. I feel so excited. I've got so many things that I want to start working on, and it just buzzed him out. So it wasn't about putting all the energy into working for someone anymore like he used to, which was the whole thing to begin with, that he found himself in a toxic environment and it was really stressful, and the migraines, like, why would you go back there?
Yeah, and I think that's often we do what we do because we feel that that's what society expects us to do. And sometimes it is worth checking in with ourselves. Am I happy in my job? Am I happy in my life? Why aren't I? There's Ikigai and there's the Maori model. I don't know. It's completely gone for me. Tifari Tapana, I think it's called. Excuse me if I pronounced that wrong. Of well-being, holistic health, and it looks at all the different areas of your health, like your personal health, finances, love, all those areas, and you can see an imbalance. You write down all the areas that you do, and you can see an imbalance and what you need to work on and what you could perhaps pull back against a little bit. And it's probably a good idea, I think, in my opinion, for us to do that every now and again, to check in with our lives and see if we're on track or off track, because often we don't. We just carry on with day after day doing, and that's where our motivation lacks.
And I could see this person heading into the same trap that he just came out of. I'm like, not on my watch. We're going to ask you a few other questions here and really get him thinking outside the box a bit and going, well, if you're going to put in energy for the next 5 months, what if it was to build up passive income so you don't have to even think about working 30 hours, and that you can do philanthropic things with people that you really care about that otherwise wouldn't be able to afford you? How about that? And he just like, yes, it was a big yes. And so when we hit that target, this has not come from my head. It's come from the understanding of what he shared with me already and the potential that I could see that he was potentially not seeing in himself yet. So my question to him, do you want to work for someone else, or have you thought about working for yourself? And what if it wasn't a 9-to-5 kind of thing, like the Industrial Revolution has kind of created in our mindset, hour for hour, what if we could create passive income where that keeps ticking over and we can use our time for better things? What would that be like? Mm-hmm. So for those that are out there, seeking for, I guess, their happy place, their place and space in the world, becoming a hypnotherapist or a coach of sorts, is very rewarding because you get to see transformation every day. This is what we do. We help people to move from not feeling that motivation to achieving those goals, and not only doing it, but in record time often. We can really amplify how quickly that journey can be for that person when they can see the how steps. And again, I hope that answered the question, because I know I went off on that tangent, but did that answer that question?
It did answer the question, yep.
Excellent. So on that note, we're going to be finishing the emotional series with this one, but we're going to be launching a whole new series next week. So stay tuned. If you haven't already, like and subscribe and push that notification bell, because YouTube likes to know that you are interested in this. And if you are interested in what we have to say and you want to know and be notified, that's the easiest way to do it. We also want to shout out and get the knowledge out there to more and more people. So to subscribe means so much to me, so much for Teresa. We're wanting to build the school, we're wanting to build the knowledge bank that we're creating here on the YouTube and other channels that we pump it out to. So look, that is that. And if you want to find out more about becoming a clinical hypnotherapist, check out the website www.nzach.ac.nz. And you can drop us a line if you've got a question. We'd love to talk to that. So, Teresa, anything else that you'd like to add before we finish here?
You just said it. I was going to say, and if you've got a question, if you want to remain anonymous, then you can contact us through the school website if you don't want to put a comment in. But we'd love to hear what you'd like us to talk about. Or if you've got any questions for us. We want this to be interactive. We want to involve you. We want to build people's knowledge and get more hypnotherapists out there in the community to help others.
Here's an idea that just popped into my head. If any of you out there would like to do a live session on YouTube.
Oh, yeah, I guess we can do that, can we?
No. Yeah, why not? So, I mean, it might not be live, but if you'd like to be someone who comes on board and we can go through and do a journey with you and you don't mind everyone watching, then let me know. I'm happy to do that and journey you through whatever it is that you want help with, okay? So whether it's being motivated to achieve a goal or overcome a fear or phobia or quit smoking or whatever it is. So, just think, is there something that I'd like? And it would be free, of course, but if you would like to come on board and be part of that, and so people can see your journey and you can share what it is that you want help with, please let us know and we'll be in touch.
Okay, it sounds good. So come on, people, comment, get in touch with us, like, subscribe and share, get our word out there, and we look forward to seeing you all next week.
Thank you, Teresa, for coming along again. And ta-ta for now.
Bye.